So I am going to do another video about the recent notes that I received from social services after a subject access request. Um, and I wanted to raise the points before I started reading these notes is that not ever in these notes are any issues raised regarding the trauma my son would have suffered losing his mother at 3 years old within a minute and not seeing her again for 2 years. That is never raised. Now, I'm still dealing with the trauma of losing my son at 3 years old. So I can't imagine what a 3-year-old is. I mean, I can't imagine. I can't even imagine what my son was going through. And whether you agree with it or not, I was still breastfeeding him. So he lost everything within a minute for 2 years. But this is not raised. This is not raised. What is raised is that I traumatized my son in South Africa, and therefore every single behavior my son displayed from then on out was my fault. When we got back, his father was able to stop contact because he told social services that my son was afraid of me, my son was scared of me, that my son was scared I was going to run away with him again, that my son didn't want to see me or speak to me. And this was all taken on board. Then, of course, this was supported and bolstered by my family. My father did an itinerary of what we did in South Africa, dramatizing it, saying that we had a car accident, and therefore supporting the father in saying that I traumatized my son and I should not be allowed near my son. This is my own father. But like I've said in my previous videos, my father had his own agenda, and none of my family wanted me anywhere near my son. So, especially my brothers, my father, my sister's husband, and his father, and but I'll discuss that in a while. And forgive me if I get angry and upset, but the injustice and the cruelty and the inhumanity of my own family and my own son's father to a little 3-year-old boy and to his mother is beyond comprehension. It's beyond comprehension. And of course, social services look really unbiased in these notes. They look really sort of as if they're valuing, doing everything fairly, and their notes are so sweet and sort of I don't know, diplomatic, I suppose, but you could literally feel their contempt and their hatred for me, and their that just disregarded me. They just didn't take anything I said seriously because of this doctor who said I had delusional disorder. Now, the first lie on these notes is, so it says here, okay, sorry, I've just, oh, yes. The trust are concerned that Miss Estrin remains adamant in her view that Caleb was exposed to sexual abuse by his father. I won't say names because it also states here that his father is going to sue me and all this kind of thing, which I honestly don't care. I'm just trying to keep my son safe. I need to really ask God. I mean, do I just go for it and just blast out names? I don't know, maybe someone has some advice for me as to what to do. I don't know. However, there is absolutely no evidence. Now, no evidence being that they never spoke to my son, interviewed my son, they didn't go near my son because of COVID once we came back. So, no evidence is absolute BS, because if they'd done their due diligence, they would have discovered I'm telling the truth. And if I hadn't had my family supporting his father, because they're pedophiles as well, then, there would have been clear evidence that there was sexual abuse and torture. Okay. While Miss Estrin has been diagnosed with delusional order, the trust are worried that Miss Estrin does not accept her diagnosis and furthermore has not engaged in any mental health. Now that is lie number one. Well, it's probably lie number two, because they said there was no evidence when they did zero investigation. So has not engaged with mental health. I went to this revolting doctor, Dr. East, for a year after we got back, a whole year. And he did not allow me to go and see my son. He was, I mean, if I could describe this doctor, I've actually recorded all of our meetings. He would see me once a month, and sometimes he would see me for 10 minutes. Sometimes he would see me for 20 minutes. We wouldn't discuss my case. We wouldn't discuss what was going on. He did not know a thing about me until the court case. Not a thing. He hadn't asked me who I am, what I am, where I am, what's going on, what happened, what made you go overseas? Nothing. Not a thing. He would discuss his dogs. He would discuss why he never came to social service meetings when he was told to come, never attended any of them. And the only time he asked me any questions about myself was when he had to do a court assessment, and he called, and stupidly, I drove all the way, like an hour and a half, to go and tell him all about myself, so that he could write this assessment. Before that, he hardly knew my name. And so, I mean, this doctor couldn't have told you. My probation officer told him more about me than he knew about me. So, I mean, this doctor, I mean, his track record is horrific. He was seeing a guy for 7 years, and the guy still went out and murdered people. So, I mean, and I completely understand. If I'd been seeing him for any more time, I would have, yeah, he was just horrific. He looked like a homeless person. He would come to the meetings looking like a homeless person. So, I don't know. It was the most bizarre situation. And so I saw this man for a year and didn't see my son. So after that, I moved to Dublin because I got a job in Dublin. And I said, okay, I'll do the, I'll see you. I'll still talk to you. Because I was trying to obey and do everything I could to see my son. And he refused to do Zoom calls with me. He refused to do Zoom calls with me. So this revolting man, essentially, just refused. I mean, he was just, I mean, I could really write a book about this Dr. East and Dr. King, who initially diagnosed me in an hour, these miraculous genius doctors. So yeah, I don't suppose I should talk like this, but it just makes me so angry because these people have ruined my life and they've ruined my son's life. I don't care what anyone says. I don't care if anyone says I'm being dramatic or a drama queen. They literally have tried to destroy our lives. So their lives deserve to be destroyed. And, my little words are not going to do it. But I look forward to the day when I see their retribution. Anyway, I mean, a lot of this stuff is redacted, so who knows what they said about me. I can only imagine. Just forgive me for my anger. It's so disgusting what has been done to us. Oh yes, and then it says here, so this is another reason I suppose God is just saying, look, just go to the public and just tell your story, is because it says here that Miss Estrin, our intentions are to go and get a residence back of Caleb. And however, the trust do not support Miss Estrin's contesting this matter and are in support of this man's residence order. So, I've lost already. which is fine, you know. I just have to accept it. I just have to accept it, because otherwise I'll go insane. I will literally go insane. Um, and I think that's what they wanted. I honestly believe that they drive mothers, and I suppose fathers too. I mean, I don't know a father's side, but I'm just talking from a mother's point of view. They drive us to want to either commit, run away, or just, like I did, hide in my shell, because you can't take the abuse, you can't take the pain, you can't take the ripping. You know, they've ripped, I mean, your child. Anyway, I don't want to get too upset, because I'm trying to be as emotionless as possible, because in these cases any emotion is looked as weakness, because it's a narcissistic system. So any emotion is weakness. They don't like it. So yeah, the school has no concerns regarding my son, despite his primary school reporting the most horrible reports, such as he goes to a school starving, he seeks out the staff's comfort, he will not go and play with the children outside. There was just so many reports. And, you know, soon after we got back, a report came out that my son, sorry, I get really upset by this, because social should have done their job, and they didn't do their job. There were reports coming out that my son was spreading feces, he was pinching people, he was biting people, he was crying. And I have to still do a video on the time that I came back. I mean, it was horrific, honestly horrific. I don't think I could have even survived or coped with what my son has been through. And so the schools, his nanny was reporting, his schools were reporting, but it was my fault. It was all my fault. The one social worker, after the schools were reporting all of this terrible behavior, a new social worker got assigned to the case, a very high up social worker. And she was lovely, and I thought she would really help us. And she saw my son dissociating because of these horrible reports that were coming out. My son's father somehow tortured my son into reacting so badly to one of my videos. And he does this all the time to distract any attention from himself and to make himself look like Saint Bloody Teresa. So in order to distract from the fact that my son had been displaying such horrific behavior, he made my son literally dissociate when looking at my videos. My son was hiding under a chair, crying and wailing. The social service said she's never seen such distressing behavior. This was watching my video, making out that my son was terrified of me, that couldn't bear to look at me, that was hiding under a table screaming and crying because of a video I'd sent. And this was accepted. This was because I ran away with him. What on earth could I have done as a mother to him to make him, now this is after a year of not seeing him, a year. And my mother said that he loved watching my videos. Now, I said to my mother, can you tell social services that he loves watching my videos? Do you think she did? She didn't say a word. Another time I wrote a letter. My mother was going on about, I must take medication, I must just be nice, I must just pander to these people, I must write a letter to Ian and ask him that I can see, you know, I must suck up to this absolute psychopath. And you know, so I wrote him a letter because out of desperation, my mother took it up to his house. He told social services that I went to his house and left it, and he was worried about his son's safety. So I said to my mother, you need to tell them that I didn't take the letter. You took the letter. Didn't say a word. Now my mother is so abused. She's so terrified. She's a puppet on a string. She literally is a puppet on a string. So there's just no hope with her. She will bow to the abusers all day long because my father is so horrific. Um so yeah. So my first meeting with my son is uncomfortable during contact time, that he's constantly wanting to leave the contact time. Now his father had brought him to contact. So what's to say, now I can't, I mean, if just imagine that you're a little boy who hasn't seen his mother for 2 years and you get to see your mother again. Are you telling me you're not going to run into her arms and want to be with her? But he was sat in a corner and he wouldn't come near me, and he kept saying he wants to go to his dad, and his dad was sitting in the next room. Now you're telling me that his father didn't make him do that, and social services are like making out that he's scared of me and that he doesn't want to be with me, and that I scare my son. It's horrific. I'm sorry that I'm getting so emotional. It's like, everything is held against you, everything. And his father then says to the social services, oh, how did the visit, after my son wouldn't stay with me for more than 5 minutes. He's like, how did it go? Did my son do well? Telling you that he wants to leave. Now, if your father is sitting in the next room and says, get out of that room in 5 minutes, and tell him you want to come to your dad, you're gonna listen to that monster? You're not gonna, even if you want to be with your mom, you're gonna listen to that monster because he's under control. And I can't wait for God to just sort this all out, because I just feel like there's no justice, and I'm so scared that there's gonna be no justice, and we're all gonna have to live this hell, and they're gonna get away with murder. They're gonna get away with everything they've done to us. And this man is so evil. He's honestly so evil. I mean, why did I have a child with a man whose number plate is 666? I mean, I must have my head red, because he is Satan. And I don't care. I mean, I'm not bashing men. I'm not bashing fathers at all. I mean, I have to honor my father, even though he's abused us and abused my son specifically. I have to honor him. So I don't know, that confuses me as well, because how do I honor this man? I know he brought us up. He gave us everything we needed. We had a much better childhood than he did. So, but then, I don't know, I can't say but anyway, I mean, these things get worse. I mean, as it progresses, it gets worse and worse and worse. His father's coercive control, his father's parental alienation, his father's tactics to keep my son away from me get more and more evident. But does social services do anything? Do they query anything? Do they say anything? No, because my son is terrified of me. Anyway, my battery is running out. I have to go.